Are you ready to listen to my dad Joe and Uncle Justin talk about sports? Now on with the show!
The Joe Mays and J-Raff Show is brought to you by Mays Sandwich Shop, which have been serving the greater West Lawn area delicious food for over 70 years. You are listening to the Joe Mays and J-Raff Show.
Boring.
A weekly podcast about sports since 2011.
Don't you ever get tired of being wrong all the time?
With a focus on football.
36-yard line of Philly, shotgun snap to Hurts, dropping back, only one person rushing, Hurts looking, standing still, winding up, long pass, it lands at the 20, no one is there, zeros on the clock, it's over, the Chiefs have won! The Chiefs have won Super Bowl 57 on a game-winning field goal, trailing at 10. At the halftime stop, 24-14, they go on to win 38-35. What a game.
Now, here are your hosts, Joe Mays and Justin Raffoff.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Joe Mays and J-Raff Show. We've got a wild one this week, episode 300 and what are we on now? 391, I think? Yeah,
I think it is.
391, January 14th, 2024. We're going to talk about Super Wildcard Weekend here, NFL action, but also in the week that has passed us by, 3 significant football coaches have moved on.
It's been a wild week.
I feel like we have to talk about that as well, Justin. But welcome into the show, Joe Mays, Justin Raffoff. Bonkers week, just bonkers with all the news and the game action over the last 2 days, especially the one that happened just before this show started.
Yeah.
A lot of eyebrows being raised, a lot of talk going around. I know my dad is not happy. Obviously, I wasn't happy last night. I think we know a few people that weren't happy with the first game yesterday.
Oh, yeah.
So honestly, I feel like 2 of the first 3 games have been upsets.
Yeah.
Because I think a lot of people thought Cleveland was going to win that game.
Yeah.
I thought most people thought Dallas was going to win.
Yeah. I would say Dallas is a huge upset. I would call Cleveland an upset. I mean, they technically were the favorite. I don't think this is a shock. I feel like there were more people on Houston's chances than there were on Green Bay's chances. Or maybe that's just what I was seeing. But both of those were significant upsets. And then Kansas City, I think that's what most people would have predicted, but not any less painful for you.
No. I didn't expect them to win.
Right.
So,
right, and this is a little bit of foretelling here, but like you were very clear about it. Like you felt like the writing was on the wall of how this was going to go, and it kind of went that way.
Right.
And my fear is I have very similar feelings.
Same feelings
for tomorrow.
Well, I mean, we can quick recap the Dolphins because I don't have a lot to say. I didn't give them a shred of hope to win that game for a variety of reasons. One, it's the defending Super Bowl champions and arguably over the last 3+ years the best quarterback in the league.
How many times can we say it? Until you show us otherwise, you're the guy.
And I know
and the team.
And I know Kansas City had a rough year this year, at least by their standards. But
rough
like
year
you said,
where they could sit everybody because they won their division
for the 8th straight year or whatever.
Right.
But it was on the road for the Dolphins on the road. Bitterly cold, 4th coldest game in NFL history, at least at kickoff. Yeah. I saw Ken Anderson was like, "You think minus 27 is cold?" Because I guess it was minus 59 for that Bengals game that he played in 40 years ago. And the Dolphins, not using injuries as an excuse, but it's 6 defensive starters out, not playing. Right. You're going against the best quarterback, arguably one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL, especially over the last 3+ years. Not having 6 defensive players probably going to catch up with you.
Yep.
And offensively, the Dolphins have been out of sync for over a month. So I really, like, if they would have won that game, I would have been shocked. About as shocked as I am right now with the way the Cowboys looked this evening. Because if you told me that Cowboys-Packers was going to end, 48-32?
Yeah.
I wouldn't never had said it would have been the Packers winning that game.
No.
Just because of the way the Cowboys had been winning at home, how good Dak and the offense had looked there, the defense had been getting it done. It's shocking how bad that was. And it was not even as close as the final score was.
And I said it to you, like, if you would have told me Green Bay won, I would have been like, okay.
27-24.
If you would have told me that they won a game that was only competitive because they took out their starters maybe a possession too soon, I would have been like, what? Like, I was stunned by that. Like, and that isn't a statement about Green Bay. It's that I fell into the, like, I was buying that this was different for Dallas too. And it wasn't. It really.
Yeah, well, Dallas falls into the same thing that I think about the Dolphins. This same old team. Same old team that can't get it done when it matters. Same old team that folds and fades as the season progresses. They don't look good enough. Dallas, it's been a playoff issue. They're the first team since like 1970 or since the merger for a team to win 12-plus games 3 straight years and never make the conference championship game. So it's been massive playoff failure for Mike McCarthy's Cowboys, and I would be shocked if he's not fired by tomorrow morning. Honestly, I'm surprised he wasn't fired as soon as the game ended.
Oh, he's done.
Like, you can't go 12-5 or whatever they've been the last 3 years and look that bad against the 49ers for 2 straight years and then get embarrassed by the Packers today. The 7 seed. And you had sent me that stat. No 7 seed had ever beaten the 2 seed. They were 6-0 because this is only, the 4th year with that system?
Yeah, it started in 2020.
Yeah.
But so there was just so much weird stuff like going on. To me, it started back, I think it was the Thanksgiving game when they whooped Washington and Jerry Jones made the comment that, like, this is up there with winning those Super Bowls. That was a weird statement.
Weird thing to say. Yeah.
Like, referencing a win over the worst team in the division.
The second worst team in the NFL.
With the highlight of your ownership career and the franchise highlight. Like, there was, like, those don't even belong in the same sentences. A blowout win over a bad team in November. I get it's the big game on national TV, Thanksgiving. Like, you should always want to. And that's not to say it's not a big win and a good win. Like, those are all true. They are not in the same chapter as winning Super Bowls. And so for the owner, who seems to be only obsessed with winning Super Bowls, to even bring it up, it wasn't brought up to him. Like, that was weird. Then there's been some other things. But then in the pregame stuff today, they were talking about how CeeDee Lamb talked about how, like, it's been so different and there's so much pressure and everything. I'm like, that's weird. I'm like, they're like, yeah, just walking around, you can tell there's just pressure on everybody, like, around town. And again, how that gets presented and what effect that has, who knows? You know what I mean? But it just seemed to me, and I remember distinctly thinking around 4:30 today, I wonder if Green Bay can hop out early if that pressure starts getting. It's just going to be building.
That's the worst thing that can happen.
And then Green Bay,
down by
Green Bay
scores,
wins the toss, takes the ball
and scores,
drives it right down your throat and scores a touchdown.
Yeah,
and you're like, oh, okay.
I know Dak didn't play great, and I know my dad has never really been a Dak supporter.
He kind of stat padded today too.
He did, but honestly, the Cowboys defense, what happened there? That was just.
Well, I think I sent this to you. It's a little frustrating watching a team run the ball down their throats. Now, they didn't run like it would be like 7-5-1. You know, like it wasn't like they were getting 5 yards every run.
Right. It wasn't watching Michigan tear off 40-plus yard runs against Washington last Monday.
But it was just steady, and they didn't give up. And then guess what? When they would go to play action, they literally had guys. It looked like they were fielding punts because they were so wide open.
Musgrave, that one was wide open. There was no one around.
Yeah.
It boggles my mind when I see at a professional level someone be that wide open.
There was no one within 20, 25 yards of him. It was just it's rare you hear people talk about how they feel the pressure. And I know whether they talk about it or not isn't the determining factor of whether it's there or not, but it's just weird to me. Like it's just, there are a number of weird vibes. There's always weird vibes when it's like when you went 12-5, won the division, and there's talk of if we lose this game, our coach may be fired.
Well, they're essentially going to, if that happens.
They went 12-5 the last 3 years.
Yeah, and didn't make it to the conference championship game.
No.
And
have never beaten the Packers at Dallas Stadium in the playoffs.
They will essentially be completely starting over staff-wise if they would fire Mike McCarthy.
Well, because there was talk. I don't mean to cut you off. Last year there was talk of like, oh, if they were to move on, Dan Quinn could maybe get the job. Dan Quinn's rumored to maybe get some other jobs, including Seattle, where he used to be the defensive coordinator. Do you hire the defensive coordinator whose defense just looked awful in your worst game?
Well, and I just don't understand. I feel like coordinator, and this is not just a Dan Quinn Dallas Cowboys thing. Coordinators try to outthink the room when you drop a pass rusher into coverage.
Yeah.
Like, why are you doing that?
Right.
That doesn't make any sense.
Right. If you had a play called and they schemed you into it, okay, that happens. But when it's the play that you called,
But Micah Parsons should not be dropping into coverage.
No.
Hassan Reddick should not be dropping into coverage.
No.
Now, not in the same level.
See-ball, get ball for those guys.
Not on the same level, but it's where the Dolphins have been at. Melvin Ingram should not be dropping into coverage.
Right.
Just like Jalen Phillips and Bradley Chubb shouldn't be dropping into coverage.
The Dolphins, the last game and a half, some of it was out of necessity because they were soon going to have you and I dropping into coverage.
Right, yeah. They were down so many outside edge rushers.
Right.
But like Melvin Ingram is like 34 and had, didn't have a team until he came back to the Dolphins with a few weeks left because of injuries.
And if you
how is he dropping into coverage?
Right, if you have that, put someone else out there. Like I know maybe we don't practice this. Go with a 3-man front. Dare them to run the ball, but go with 3-man front. Just throw your able bodies out there on the back end.
But I feel like, you see it at the college ranks too.
Oh yeah,
trying to outthink. Like they think I'm going to do this, so I'm going to do. Just do what your team is best at.
You can have Micah Parsons pass rush every down.
He should be.
And guess
That's what he does best.
They're still not going to be able to stop him.
He didn't have a sack this game. No. He got a couple penalties called against him, which hadn't been happening.
Right.
But Rasheed Walker, one of the guys responsible for giving Micah Parsons the shutout on the stat sheet, at least sacks wise. So former Penn Stater Sean Clifford, also the backup quarterback there.
With one of the games yesterday, it assured that there will be a Penn Stater in the Super Bowl again. I saw that.
Oh yeah,
that's what I saw, but I don't know who they all are.
So there's got to be someone on every NFC team. Then is Kabinda still with Detroit?
I didn't think he was, but I don't know. But I can't name them.
Yeah, that's what I'm trying to figure out who it would be. I know,
but I know we had
Nick
a bunch
Scott
of guys.
used to be with the Rams, but he's not there anymore.
Right.
Yeah, I'm drawing a blank on who that would be in L.A. and Detroit.
I don't know who it is for the Eagles.
Oh yeah, because Miles Sanders isn't there anymore.
Right.
I'm gonna have to pull that up because that's interesting.
And maybe I misread it. Maybe it was talking about some things that happened this weekend. It could happen again or something. Well, but I thought I saw something yesterday that said it will happen.
Well, who was it? Who's it with the Chiefs?
I just read the headline. I didn't.
You know what? I believe Penn State put out a graphic about the players left.
Does it have small print?
Someone reposted that. Everyone except for 5 or whatever.
Right.
Here it is. So Dan Chisena is on a team somewhere. I'm not sure who he would be with. But Owe and Stout are with the Ravens.
Right.
I believe Bates and Jones and McGovern are all with the Bills. Parsons is with the Cow. This lists Kabinda, so he must be at some. Maybe he's on practice squad.
Right, and that it probably does include practice squad because there aren't pictures of all the guys.
Clifford and Walker are with the Packers. Is Amos with the Texans? Because I know Scruggs is.
I don't know where Amos is. I know he's not with the Packers anymore.
Well, he went from Bears to Packers to Jets, but then was released or granted his release, and he moved on. Scruggs is with the Texans. Donovan Smith is with the Chiefs. I don't know where Nick Bowers or Brandon Smith are. Pat Fryermuth, Joey Porter Jr., Allen Robertson are all with the Steelers.
Godwin's with
Jair Brown and Kevin Givens are with the 49ers, and Godwin's with the Bucs. So what team didn't we mention there?
Eagles.
So maybe it's every AFC team left. Did we say everyone?
If it's every AFC team, then you're guaranteed.
We said
to
Chiefs,
right.
We said Ravens, we said Bills, we said Steelers, and we said Texans.
Yeah, there it is.
So there it is. Guaranteed. So there you go. I wonder who Dan Chisena is with. I thought he had been with the Vikings. So I'm not sure who he is with right now. I have to look that up. He is currently with he's with the Ravens. So there you go. So the first three are all Ravens. Chisena, Owa, and Stout. Bates, Jones, McGovern.
Go Birds.
Parsons, Kabinda, Clifford Walker. And I think, is Amos down with the Texans then? Me? He is. Amos is with the Texans with Scruggs. Scruggs is starting, by the way, on that offensive line. So how about CJ Stroud? Wow.
Dude, and I know there was talk, and I know one game in this situation doesn't make everything. And Stefanski did a great job this year, but it would be a shame if, especially the way that game went. And I know, again, that's not everything, but if he won Coach of the Year over, what's his name? From Houston.
Yeah.
You know, like it would be a shame. And I don't. It's not. Again, it's not the end of the world. It's not that big of a deal. But and man, CJ Stroud
looks fantastic.
Really, really good. Well, and somebody said don't overlook this. So like, Houston did that to Cleveland. Who Cleveland, like, and everybody's like, Houston's so young. Yeah, you know why they're so young? Because they had all that capital that they got from the Browns for Deshaun Watson.
Yeah.
Who has done essentially nothing for the Browns so far.
Yeah. Now, I know he was injured this year, but Flacco, I know he had a tough game yesterday, but Flacco looked pretty good.
And he's the only reason they got there. Like, because they weren't going to get there if they didn't bring in a veteran guy, you know? But... yeah.
We've got a decent amount of people watching across the platform, so we appreciate it. But this is a live show, so if anyone has questions or comments they want to throw at us, send us that way. If you are watching on YouTube, we would love for you to subscribe to the channel. And if you're listening to this audio podcast afterwards, we would love for you to rate and review the show on Apple Podcasts and Spotify, and subscribe and add us to your lists on there as well. We appreciate it. We will continue to talk NFL football here because I don't really have much left to say about the Dolphins-Chiefs game. Honestly, that game ended up being closer than it should have been. The Chiefs choked in the red zone a bunch. Yeah. Game could have been out of hand really quickly. That's pretty much all I have to say about that. I don't know what else to say. I'm disappointed with the way the season ended because at one point, just a month ago, the Dolphins were in line to possibly be the 1 seed. And then they cratered down the stretch. Losing to the Titans sucked. They got obliterated by the Ravens and looked not great against the Bills at home. And then the writing was on the wall in Kansas City.
It's those games like that Titans game, where you're just like, I hope this doesn't hurt us down the stretch. Well, it did. See, I don't know that the result is different, but the game is very different if that game, they're not playing Kansas City.
In hindsight, I look at it, though, the Dolphins would have been bigger frauds, and I feel like it would have happened to them what happened to Dallas. Like, I feel like Possibly. They would have, they probably wouldn't have played their starters against Buffalo because they would have already had the division and the 2 seed, I think, locked up. So that game wouldn't have mattered. Then you host Buffalo again the next week, and what if Buffalo beats you at home at 7, beats a 2?
Right.
And maybe the seeds wouldn't have worked out that way. I don't know. You beat the Titans. Like, I don't know how that would have.
Right.
No. Say that's what happened. Like that would have been worse because that would have been like your division champs. You're the 2 seed. You lose to a team for the 3rd time this year.
Right.
You get
right.
like that would have been worse. So, did I want them to win? Yeah, because as I've said many times over the last 12 years we've been doing this show, I guess almost 13 years, literally in like 3 weeks.
The show is still waiting for a Dolphins playoff.
The show
victory.
has not witnessed a Dolphins playoff win, and actually, you can go back 10 years before the show even began to the last Dolphins playoff win. Miami has not won a playoff game since December 30th, 2000.
So our high school diplomas have not seen.
No, they haven't. It's like it's ridiculous, and the only thing
this millennia has barely seen.
But this is the problem with me, and it's happening in front of our eyes right now. The only team that's have a longer playoff winning drought is the Detroit Lions, and they're playing the Los Angeles Rams right now.
Right. And they're off to a better start than.
And they're off to a much better start than the Dolphins. So, Stafford just punched that guy's helmet.
And then got jacked in the chest. And watch his head bounce off the back of the tackles.
Oh, boy. That's not good. Carson Wentz time, baby. It's 14-3, by the way.
So
Lions up on the Rams.
Listen, it's not going to happen. But imagine if the Rams won, but Stafford has a broken hand, and Carson Wentz is starting for the Rams in Philadelphia. Next week.
I want Detroit. I have nothing against the Rams. They won the Super Bowl a couple years ago. They had an awful year last year. Right. I don't really dislike them. I don't have anything against them
right now.
But
at times I have been. Like during that Wentz golf stuff, I was pulling for. But like,
yeah, it's
that's long
now.
gone.
Right, that's changed many times over now. I when I say I'm cheering for the underdog here, it's not in this game. I understand. I think Detroit was favored.
It's the lovable losers
franchise.
Right.
The Lions and Browns, like the two.
When was the last time the Lions hosted a playoff game?
1992.
Right.
It's 2024. Like it's been a long time. So,
most of the players on the Rams were not born the last time, on the Lions were not born the last time.
Puka Nacua on my bench in the fantasy.
Yeah.
At least I have him.
I thought about taking him, but I did not.
I did take him. I didn't start. I started Kyron Williams though. So,
well, in part I didn't take him because I thought the Lions were going to win.
So did I. But it was one of those games I felt was more of a toss-up.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely.
So I took Nacua and Williams, but I have McCaffrey on my bench for next week. So.
Yeah.
In case Kyron Williams doesn't move on.
Right.
But anything else to say about Dallas and the Packers? I said this to you before.
I think Dallas is going to be another coaching vacancy.
I do too. I think Dan Quinn is going to move on. I mean, maybe not, but if you bring in a new coach, is he going to want his own? Like,
no, I think with McCarthy leaving, unless he were offered the Dallas job, which would be a tough sell.
That'd be a tough sell. That would be a tough sell.
I think he moves on as well.
Which means an entire new staff and playbook, because McCarthy was calling his plays,
right.
Which worked, honestly. Like, his play calling was pretty good most of the year, struggled a little bit on the road, and the play of Dak today wasn't the best. But McCarthy taking over play calling, getting rid of Kellen Moore this past offseason wasn't really a detriment to them. No. It wasn't the offense that was failing them.
No. But you have the number one. They hadn't lost the game at home since week 1 last year.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know.
And again, if that was a toss-up game, it's a toss-up game. But it was not a toss-up game.
No, it was not. So...
Just real quick, and this is going to annoy you like crazy, but did the Packers do it again? Like, do they have another?
Oh, did they find?
Listen, this is me jumping on the hyperbole train because that's fandom, right? And look, I know that is a ridiculous question, but like Jordan Love. So this is just real quick. Jordan Love was getting run out of town halfway through this season. There were people saying they should just start Sean Clifford to see if, to give him his shot, figure out who these young guys are, and they need to draft a quarterback in the offseason. And now you're like, whoa, Jordan Love is on a tear and playing as good as anyone the second half of the season.
I hope I hope so, just because I feel like it makes Rodgers look a little worse. You can't
No,
he's
I'm
a
on board with it.
4-time MVP.
Yeah.
Like he's obviously first ballot Hall of Fame,
Right.
just like Favre.
Right.
Like they're both two of the better quarterbacks in NFL history, as much as I hate to admit it.
Right.
But you and I have said this in text. Big shoes to fill on the field. Off the field, Jordan Love doesn't have to do too much to be better than those two guys.
Just don't be a
Because
jerk.
Brett Favre and Aaron Rodgers are garbage human beings.
Right.
So
And
Jordan
not-
Love just has to basically be an average human off the field, which I believe he already was. Was he not already helping someone in the snowstorm
Yes,
this week?
and yes,
And
because
using
Ross
Tucker.
Ross
yeah.
did this.
The people that don't know Ross
right,
Tucker,
right. Oh gosh, I love when
who,
he
by
does
the
it.
way, at this Lions,
He got on
Lions
TV
game.
already too. I think
Well,
somebody
he's a
sent
sideline guy.
Right, somebody sent a screenshot because a receiver ran out of bounds near him, and
Oh.
he retweeted it. I think.
But he's
like, that's
he
one.
was with Anzalone.
Yes,
two
yes.
Wild missing guys. Anzalone having a really good year. If he didn't get injured, I think he could have possibly made the Pro Bowl. I
Yeah.
don't know that he
Yeah.
maybe he was an alternate or something, but he was having a really good year. He did get injured. He did also he was injured at the time, but he also became a dad, or
Yeah.
maybe again.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if it was his first or not, but he missed the Thanksgiving game. The birth of a child, but he was also injured, so he wouldn't have been playing in the game anyways. But so Ross Tucker and Alex Anzalone, both missing high school graduates, both obviously they're in Detroit right now. The Lions up 14-10 on Matthew Stafford and the Los Angeles Rams. Ross Tucker sent out a tweet, like a sarcastic tweet about bad look for Jordan Love
Right, he should
helping
be
a stranded
studying.
motorist.
Right, he should be studying
yeah.
film. Like,
And the people that just don't know Ross, and like Ross does it on purpose,
Right.
Because he was the one that put him on the map for the sarcasm was about Kenny Pickett
Right.
not being able to handle
he
the
has
elements
right,
playing
right.
in Pittsburgh.
His hands are too small. He'll never be able to survive in a city like Pittsburgh.
And everyone's like, "Oh, dude, he played for Pitt in college," and that's exactly what Ross was doing
Right.
there, just to see how many people
And a lot
don't know him,
didn't
and a
get
lot,
it.
yeah. And he retweets them. That's the best
Yes,
part.
yes.
The people that respond to him thinking he's serious, he retweets them. It's fantastic, just absolutely fantastic. But so we have this game going on right now. I think we're both pulling for the Lions just because of the underdog mentality. I know
Yes,
it helps you
yes.
in terms of as your Eagles fandom,
But
that if
I'm
the
not
Rams
confident
win.
the Eagles win tomorrow.
Right.
Like,
If the Eagles had already won, you'd
Well,
probably
it's
be
like-
more in.
friend of the show and Browns fan, Joe, was like, dude, like, you don't think they're going to beat a banged up Baker Mayfield tomorrow? I was like, the Eagles lost to the Giants and the Jets. Like, no, I'm not convinced they're going to beat the Bucs tomorrow.
With Zach Wilson and Tyrod Taylor at quarterback.
Yes.
Yeah, I did you know Baker Mayfield was beat up? I feel like
Yes,
that came out on.
because I saw some of the game last week where he got popped.
Okay, because I saw that come out on like Thursday, and I was
Yeah.
like, "Whoa, is this a new
He
revelation?"
got popped and he hurt his ankle last week. He was hobbled early in the game. I saw it on Red Zone last week.
Okay, I wasn't aware of that. I didn't realize
Because
that
they
until it
needed to
came out.
win. They needed to win the game, and he got his ankle rolled up on early in the game.
So we have two games tomorrow because of the blizzard in Western New York,
Yes.
causing the game to get moved from 1:00 this afternoon to 4:30 tomorrow. That is Steelers at Bills. I am a huge Pittsburgh fan, through and through. In terms of AFC squads left in it, they may be they're my number one left in it, probably
who
with
are you?
with Chad not in
Who
Kansas
are
City
you?
anymore. Look, I don't have any ill will towards Andy Reid or Patrick
no.
Mahomes, even though they just
I
beat
get
my
it.
Dolphins.
I
Like
get it.
I still like them, but I'm probably pulling for Pittsburgh,
Understandable.
mostly because for them to do well, they need to beat the Bills, and I want the Bills to lose. And
no.
if they beat the Bills, they get to play the Ravens. And for some reason, I feel like Pittsburgh could beat them just because of the rivalry that is there between the two teams. And look, the Steelers are maybe an above average team. For them to win one of the games, let alone the next 2 weeks, would be one of the craziest things that's happened, because you're at Mason Rudolph at quarterback. You're without TJ Watt for at least this game, and they're like 1-10 when they play without TJ Watt.
Mason Rudolph winning this playoff game and then them still going with some other quarterback to start next season would be very on par, though. Like, right?
Oh,
like,
boy. If he beats Buffalo and Baltimore, there's no way you have to start him next year, right? Like you can't with the way he finished the season.
You see the tweet I sent you? It wasn't my tweet, but like Sean Clifford playing in a playoff game before Kenny Pickett.
So, look, I think the Bills are going to win that game. They have more talent. They're playing better, but we've talked
Honestly,
about.
I feel like, and this is one of those things where I'm not saying it should have been
Really
played.
bad tackling.
It absolutely should not have been played. But the Steelers playing in the bad weather was maybe their chance to like muck up that game, like just turn it into a slugfest, like sloppy. I know it's turf up there, but like sloppy, bad conditions, a 17-13 game or even like a 14-6 game,
Right.
like that was their chance.
I honestly, what I'm hoping happens to Buffalo, and if it's not this week against the Steelers, I hope it's next week against the Texans.
Kansas City.
Kansas City. I hope it's next week against Kansas City. If it's not this week against Pittsburgh, I hope they feel the pressure like Dallas did. Like I want to hear Bills players talking about the pressure that is on them.
And again, it was just so weird to hear that. Like not that there isn't. It's the playoffs. Everyone knows there's pressure, but to hear players just say like, yeah, walking around town, it's just a different atmosphere, but there's so much pressure. Okay.
Your mom's not feeling what I'm putting down. I'm guessing it's the anti-Baltimore talk
Listen,
or the
if it
rooting for Pittsburgh
if
talk.
it ends up Baltimore Buffalo in the AFC Championship game, Joey will break out his Ray Lewis
Oh my
jersey and
gosh.
we'll be.
Look, if it's Baltimore Buffalo, I'm rooting for the Ravens. So Cheryl, I hope that redeems me a little bit in your eyes. I hope it doesn't come to that because honestly, entering the playoffs of the 14 teams in the playoffs, the number one team I don't want to win is the Bills. The number two team I don't want to win is the Ravens. So you can see the conundrum I'm facing there if it's Bills-Ravens in the AFC Championship game. Which, knowing my luck with at least football rooting interest, that's what it's going to be. Which means I'll guaranteed to root for whatever team is left in the NFC.
If you could root for the Bucs tomorrow, that would be fantastic.
But I'm sorry. I have never liked the Ravens. Can't do it with Baltimore, but look, I hate all the AFC East teams more than that.
No, I completely understand.
I can't like the Bills, Jets, and Patriots will always be down low, but I can't with the Ravens. So, and my AFC interest is with the Steelers, Chiefs, and honestly, what a story that would be if the Texans just ran the table. Could you imagine?
That would be wild.
I thought they were going to lose this week to the Browns, so I feel like it's going to come back to them. Because remember, this team lost to the Panthers.
Right.
This team lost to
they had ups and downs.
the Falcons.
They've had a lot of ups and downs.
And maybe they're just clicking at the right time. We're not talking about momentum, but just the team being more cohesive, understanding the playbook.
But look at this too, right? So like so much of the season was emphasized, and it is like
that's fine.
If
If you buy me a jersey, it better be OA. Because I am not wearing anyone else's jersey.
Jordan Stout.
Okay, Jordan Stout.
Jersey?
You know what? Just find like a discount McSorley jersey. I know he's not there anymore, but it's got to be a Penn Stater because if you give me a Ray Lewis one, I'm throwing it in my fire pit immediately.
What about an Ed Reed jersey?
It would take a lot for me. Like it would take
start
them
flashing
playing
the
the
U.
Bills. It would take them playing the Bills for me to wear that.
Fair enough.
I mean, but I'm putting it out there. It would happen. But it would never be Ray Lewis. I would never wear a Ray Lewis anything. I don't want him anywhere near me in any way. Well, I fear for my life if he's actually near me.
So you don't want to run up against him in a dark alley.
I don't. So go back to what you were saying.
Oh, I don't remember.
Oh, you don't remember?
Yeah.
So besides Bills, Steelers tomorrow in Buffalo, we also have Eagles, Buccaneers. We talked about it a little bit. So Baker Mayfield is injured, expected to play.
Yeah.
Eagles, A.J. Brown is out, but Darius Slay is back, correct? And Devontae Smith
Darius
is
Slay's
back.
Devontae Smith is back.
How's Jalen?
DeAndre Swift is back. Jalen's back and was throwing
Swift
later
had an
in the
illness, right?
Yeah, it was illness, yeah.
Jalen Swift had a dislocated middle finger on his throwing hand, but he's good to go.
Yeah, he did not throw on Wednesday, but he was throwing Thursday at practice. Yeah.
Okay. The Eagles are they still favored? They were favored by 2.5, right?
I think they are favored by 2.5 or
Look,
so.
and we talked about this, I think, last week as the Eagles were plodding to the finish line and looking lost 5 of their last 6 or 4 of their last 5. What was it? They were 10-1 and they finished
They lost 5 of their
11
last
and
6.
6. So they were 1-5 in their last 6. Didn't look great. We talked about when they got to 9-1, 10-1 about how they were playing with fire. And I said that on the show. Is this them getting away with it that they're playing bad but still beating good teams, or is this who they really are?
Right.
And it feels like that's who they really were.
Right. Yeah.
But they've also played better, so we know that they can be better. So it just depends on what comes about. It doesn't seem like, the defense is nothing like it was last year.
No.
Even when they were winning, they were nothing like they were last year. They dropped from the number 1 team in terms of sacks because I think they had about 70 last year. They finished the regular season this year with 43.
Right.
That's a lot less sacks.
Yeah.
A lot less sacks. So, and the offense just has kind of looked out of sync all year, even when they were winning. Even when they were winning 10 of 11. It just, it felt off. Jalen never felt comfortable, especially throwing the ball.
At times, they've looked great. And that's part of it. This will sound bad, but it hasn't been like the Steelers where it's just been bad offense for ever, right? It's been more like they'll look great for a quarter and a half, and then something bad happens and everything changes. It's well, what? Relax. What happened? It's just weird. And I don't know what it is. I don't. It's tough. And I think I said this to you. If not, I'm saying it to you now. No matter what happens tomorrow night, even if the Eagles lose by multiple scores, you won't convince me that Tampa's a better team than the Eagles. The Eagles, something was going on and they just did not play to what they needed to play. I still am not confident they win tomorrow. I think they could very easily win and still look poor. You know what I mean? Or unconvincing might be a better way of saying it. They could win tomorrow 24-17 or something, but no real conviction in the win, It scares me because I don't know how they stop the pass against
Detroit or San Francisco?
Or Tampa.
Or Tampa.
You got Mike Evans and Chris Godwin. I'm not convinced that they can get it done.
Yeah, well, Bradbury and Blankenship have not been good.
No.
Slay is coming back,
Slay's
so that could
stats,
be a boost.
right, and Slay's stats are better than what he was getting credit for. But when we say this all the time, when there's no pressure, it starts to matter less who the guys on your back end are, right? It matters less and less.
I think about
and
that.
It's almost like a bell curve because if your guys up front are extremely good, like they were last year, it matters less and less how your back end plays, right? It's in the middle. If your guys are okay up front, then you need guys really good. It's when your guys up front are bad or really good that the guys on the back end kind of get hidden.
Right. And it was the Giants 15 years ago that made it that you need 4 or 5 elite rotational pass rushers, and then your secondary doesn't matter.
Right.
Because if you're constantly pressuring the quarterback,
Right.
even if you're not getting the sacks,
Right.
as long as you're making it uncomfortable and forcing someone to throw on the run or before they want to throw it, your coverage guys don't matter.
Right.
As much.
Right.
Because the DBs, when the Giants won those 2 Super Bowls in 4 years or whatever, beating the Patriots,
Now,
it was the pass rushers that were getting it done.
and they talk about how bad the Eagles are against the blitz, which they have been. They've been awful against the blitz. However, how do you help everyone out with this? Run the ball. And I don't just mean run it 40 times. I mean run it effectively, right? Run it effectively, and guess what gets better? Your ability to pass, because then they're going to have to then play action becomes better. There's a lot that goes better when you're able to run the ball successfully. And I think that's going to be a key for the Eagles tomorrow.
Your buddy C.J. Gardner-Johnson there getting the penalty for Detroit.
Yeah, as much as he's annoying, Eagles could use him right now.
So,
The Eagles offered to pay him, and he didn't want what the Eagles offered.
What is your gut feeling for tomorrow night? Is it going to be a low-scoring game? You think it's going to be a high-scoring game? I know you don't think. So I shouldn't say you do think the Eagles.
Do you know what
are
the over/under is tomorrow?
I don't. Last I knew, the Eagles are favored by 2.5. So Eagles, Buccaneers, betting line. Let's see. What do we got here? So Eagles, Bucs, over 40, over under 43.
That's
or
about,
something
right about
around.
where I'd put it. 23-20. That's sounds.
I'm going over. I would go over.
Because you think the Eagles' defense is just that bad?
No, I could see it being 27-24, something like that.
Yeah, I'll go over just because I feel like
I picked the Eagles to win.
you can have bad football get over 43.5 or 44 there.
Oh, yeah.
You picked the Eagles to win?
I picked the Eagles to win.
I think I did too.
You picked the Eagles, but it was your least confident pick. Because remember, you sent me the email, and I was like,
Yes,
whoa.
Yes.
Yeah,
That's
and
right. That's
I was like, I think you have your confidence numbers mixed up.
Right, yes.
You gave him a 6, and that means you're guaranteeing an Eagles win, which doesn't sound like you.
It's almost like you know me. Oh, gosh.
So, all right, so that's all wild card weekend. We covered the games that were, the game that's currently going on, the games that are coming tomorrow. So let's talk a little bit about the 3 coaching retirements, or they're not. One is a retirement in college. The other 2 are teams moving on, sort of respectfully. I think at least Belichick and Kraft with the Patriots mutually decided to part ways. It kind of sounds like the Seahawks told Carroll, you need to resign and move into an advisor role, or you're getting fired.
This is your new spot, right?
Yeah.
You can take it or leave it.
I wonder, is he is there something in a rework contract that forces him to do that, or is he a free agent to go coach somewhere?
See, I feel like the only way that would happen is if he had put that in his contract before, because he doesn't have to. You know what I mean? He could have. They can't come to you necessarily unless you have that clause in there that they can just do that. Man, those 3-4 yard outs on 4th downs are so hard to stop.
Don't tell the Dolphins that.
Dude, I'm telling you, man, that Tyreek Hill play. When they got that bomb to Tyreek Hill yesterday, I was like, all right, they're in this. The offense seemed to be clicking enough.
I thought that was going to be a turning point where I was like, all right, they're going to keep it together.
Right.
But as much as the Dolphins defense held them to field goals and they played well in the red zone, they couldn't stop them from driving the field.
You don't have to tell me, man. The Eagles did not force them to punt in the fourth or in the second half last year.
So Nick Saban retires from Alabama from college
I thought
football.
that was picked. I thought it was picked.
Oh my gosh, he's going to dive into the end zone untouched. What a game we're getting right now. The Crimson Tide have already moved on to Kalen DeBoer, the Washington head coach, and he's bringing a few of his guys, including his offensive coordinator from Washington. They've already hired Jed Fish from Arizona. Saban goes out with, across his college career, 7 national championships, 6 of them at Alabama.
He did at Alabama what Nebraska has been trying to grasp for 2 decades now.
Yeah.
2+ decades now.
Well, and we talked about it in
Alabama was irrelevant.
They were a middling team. They were a top 20 to 30 team.
Yeah.
Before he got there,
and riddled with
sanctions
NCAA
and stuff
issues,
like that.
right?
Yeah, issues. And I think they haven't been less than 10 wins since 2010. I think they've won 10 plus games every year from 2011 on. Double digit wins every year 2011 on. Won 6 national championships during his time. Always has basically a top 5, top 3 recruiting class. It's tough to replace someone like that. And there was a long
Really
list
tough.
in The Athletic of these, incredible coaches retiring, and then the people behind them finding out that it's tough to replace a legend. So
lots of reasons.
It'll be interesting to see what DeBoer is able to do there.
When Saban came there, why did he did he get hired there? Because they needed to beat Auburn, right? Like that was the goal. Yes, national championships are the goal, but it was beat Auburn, win SEC championships, compete for national championships, right? What's the standard there now? The standard there now is
winning
national championships.
Yeah,
plural.
And now it'll be easier, but not making the playoff is an abject failure because it's 12 teams.
If they miss the playoff next year, it wouldn't surprise me if they fired him. Like, and that's ridiculous. That's ridiculous, right? Unless they go like 0-12 next year, you cannot fire him.
And in the decade, right, we had 10 4-team CFPs.
Yeah,
Alabama only missed it twice.
Right.
So you were a top 4 team
right.
8 out of 10 years,
or
7 out of 10 years, whatever
like,
it was.
At least 2 of those times they were like arguably still one of the best 4 teams. They just didn't. The way it fell, they didn't get in.
Right. So, yeah, the standard couldn't be higher. The expectations could not be higher.
Right.
So it'll be interesting to see what happens there. Musical chairs in college football have seemed to settle down. Norvell signed a contract extension. You saw Sarkisian sign an extension at Texas and Lanning and Oregon. All 3 of those guys, all represented by the same guy, Jimmy Sexton, who all got his Saban, a Sexton guy. Those 3 guys, Sexton guys. He just money left and right.
I had to laugh. Florida State got in trouble for using NIL inappropriately to do it. But part of me wants to be like, can you imagine if Norvell is just like, we're not sorry and we're going to keep doing it. What are you going to do? Keep us out of the playoff? Like, like I know that's not the way they'll do it, but I just love it. Oh man, my buddy Tom.
Yeah, throwing some shade.
Oh gosh.
So Belichick's out in New England. He wants to keep coaching. I think he's 15 wins away from breaking Don Shula's NFL wins record, which I believe includes both regular season and playoffs. Belichick's at 333. Shula finished with 347. So Belichick needs 15 wins to surpass Don Shula, which I hope he doesn't get. But Belichick wants to keep coaching, and someone will hire him. I believe the Falcons and Panthers have been linked to him.
The Falcons are the front runner for him, but like there's some wild cards in that race now.
There's a possibility that Dallas is going to open up. People are thinking if the Eagles look bad tomorrow night, could the Philadelphia job open up?
If the Eagles lose the way they lost last week to the Giants, I don't know if I think Sirianni should be fired. Like I'm taking that part out of it. I can't say with confidence that he wouldn't be. If they get embarrassed tomorrow, the way they were embarrassed last week, I can't take it out of the equation. Also, playing factor 2, is there something else going on there? Is there some underlying issues that are part of this collapse? Or is it they're not as good as they were at the first part, and maybe they're not as bad as they've been for the last month or somewhere in between?
Right.
Like, I don't know. But like in that building, I feel like they know. And while Jeffrey Lurie has displayed some patience, he's also, I mean, they let go of Peterson. You know, now things had fallen apart there, but it's hard to argue that things haven't fallen apart right now. Now, if they win tomorrow, he absolutely is not getting fired.
Yeah,
you know
I would doubt it.
Unless it comes out that like they won yesterday, but there was like this coach-driven feud within the building. You know, like
I do think it's interesting. A lot of people were excited for Steichen and Gannon to leave, especially Gannon last year after the way the Super Bowl went, and with the rumors about them interviewing for jobs and focusing on stuff outside of the Super Bowl. You'll never really know the full story on that. I mean, I know there was tampering stuff leveled against the Cardinals for Gannon.
Right. Well, and the team settled it. They gave him the pick that ended up being Sidney Brown, who got the pick 6 against the Cardinals.
So, but the coordinators matter, and the 2 new ones for the Eagles, well, one was already demoted.
Yeah, which also is weird, and I don't know that was Sirianni's call.
The
that
other
doesn't seem like something you do. The
other people want fired.
Right.
So,
but it's also rumored to be in contention for other jobs, including the Carolina job. And supposedly there's deep ties there. Like, but it's just weird.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know what's.
But at the same time, I'm like, hey, you know what might not fix the offense is a third offensive coordinator in 3 years.
No, that you need consistency.
Right.
You need to figure out what's going on.
Well, and like we preach this all the time, like patience, right? There were a lot of people who were calling for Matt LaFleur to leave last year. They thought, look, if it's LaFleur or Rodgers, let's get rid of LaFleur. You know, like...
No, they made the right decision.
100%.
I was never a fan of LaFleur, but
No.
you don't go with the aging quarterback that's a problem all the time with everything. He thought he was the organization, which they've had happen before. Like, it's so crazy how that happened twice in a row.
Yeah. Imagine living through that as the backup quarterback. Which
and
he
then one
and
upping
being
it.
like, and you know he had to be in private circles, or at least in his own head, being like, dude, this dude, referring to Favre, is ridiculous. And then being like,
I can do better.
Hold my beer. You know, like,
how ridiculous. So
hold my psychedelics.
Oh. Do you so Belichick coaches, I don't think that's like he's coaching somewhere.
Please don't let him go to Dallas. Or let him go to Dallas and your wish still come true of him not getting to the record.
Yeah, I don't want him to surpass Shula, obviously, for selfish reasons. But let's finish with Jim Harbaugh. Michigan won the national championship. I agree with people.
I think Jim's gone.
Well, I agree with people that I don't think their championship is tainted because of the spying scandal.
Oh, completely.
He already served the suspension, and obviously when that all started, they had to shut it down, obviously. And I think teams change. Like, I don't think they went through the hardest part of their schedule, including the playoff and national championship, without having that advantage.
Yeah.
At least they were on the same playing field as all the other teams. Because we hear sign stealing isn't illegal. It's the way they were going about doing it. So I don't like. I agree. I don't think that's an asterisk on that championship. I don't think it'll ever get vacated. I don't think that's a problem. But Jim Harbaugh has now finished a decade at his alma mater.
It would be hilarious if it got vacated because of the cheeseburger receipt incidents and not the cheating in the games. Like, tell me that would not
peak
be
NCAA.
I was going to say that would be the most NCAA thing, though, right? Right. We can all agree on that.
So Harbaugh goes out. Well, Harbaugh is at the top. You can't do any better except back to back, which Michigan's losing a lot.
I told you, and I don't know because eligibility is not the same as your class year, especially right now. But they mentioned this when we were out at the Big Ten Championship. I think 44 seniors and grad students on the
fourth,
on the
fifth,
roster.
or sixth year players. 44 of them.
That's over half your scholarship guys.
Yeah.
Now, maybe not all those guys are scholarship guys, but that's a lot to replace.
Right, because you get 85.
Yeah, right. Oh, and now one of your not seniors,
McCarthy,
is leaving. Right.
Well, both running backs are gone, right?
Yeah, Blake Corum's going to leave too.
And wasn't like the entire offensive line upperclassmen?
Right, because they like all returned.
Yeah, well, they had this fund last year to bring like everyone back, their NIL, their collective, and it worked. They got the job done.
Right. And quick note, I think it was The Athletic did an article, or maybe it was Adam Brenneman, who did like a piece on how Washington uses their NIL and they focus on retainment over recruitment it, and how successful they've been with it. I think, and this obviously I have no insight to this, I think McCarthy leaving is a sure sign that Harbaugh is also going to leave. I don't think it necessarily means he has a deal in place this minute. I think it means
they had to sit down and he was like, look, I'm probably gone.
Would he trying to figure out what
Jim Harbaugh's going to do
thinking is about as useless as anything. However, his stock to go to the NFL will never be higher.
No, you're right. Absolutely, 100%.
He accomplished what he set out to do in college football. He restored Michigan back to
national prominence.
Right. And again,
3 straight wins against Ohio State.
I don't like it, but
2
like
college football playoffs and a national championship.
College football is better when Michigan is relevant.
Yep.
And they had fallen to irrelevancy.
They're 2-4 in 2020. I know, COVID year. There's a lot. I mean,
Right.
Penn State started 0-5.
But preach with the consistency and patience. They wanted him run out.
He
He
took a pay
renegotiated to take a pay cut because they were underperforming.
Yeah, patience. I know it's not always
Right.
afforded, but you can see what happens when you are patient.
However, and he's ultra competitive. And look at this. Who would want, if you could coach in the NFL or in college, who would want to coach in college right now?
You're right.
I mean, I know that the paychecks are crazy, but you know what else has started to change is the NFL coaching pay. You know what I mean? And if you're one of the most, okay, I'll take it.
They called that on Detroit.
Yeah.
Looked like he came into the
See,
neutral zone
I
to
am
me.
so torn here because if the Eagles
If
win
the Eagles
tomorrow,
win, you want the Rams to win. But if
Right.
the Eagles are going to lose, you want Detroit to win.
right?
So, no, I agree. Like, I would not look. If I was that good of a coach and I got to choose between college and NFL, I would always pick NFL. I feel like I would always pick NFL. But the way that college is going now, I would 100% pick NFL.
Right. Well, and like Franklin and Kraft did a great job of like talking through this. You have to recruit not just your high school guys, not just your transfer portal guys, but you have to re-recruit your own roster every year. That's tough. That's really tough. But on the other hand, when are you at the best position to do that? Coming off a national championship, like it's.
Yep. So if McCarthy gets fired, everyone's thinking, could they go after Bill Belichick? Why wouldn't they go after Jim Harbaugh?
Man.
The Chargers job is out there too. I know the Raiders is too, but I feel like that's going to Antonio Pierce. I guess I would be shocked if it didn't. After
Max Crosby.
Right, he's
just being
basically
like,
saying, I'm going to ask for a
leaving."
trade if
Right.
you don't hire Antonio Pierce, their best defender.
The best player.
So yeah, so if Pierce gets the Raiders job, you have the
And
Chargers.
to be fair to him, I feel like he's kind of earned it. Like,
Yeah.
earned, or at least earned
well,
the
same
shot.
thing with Bisaccia.
Yeah.
I almost said Biscotti.
Right,
Bisaccia.
Which is, and Al Davis said this year he regrets not going with him. Like he admits it was a mistake.
Yeah. So you have the Chargers job open, you have the Commanders job open, you have the Panthers job open.
Not Al Davis, by the way, but
Right, Stephen Davis.
Yeah.
No. Yes? What is his name? I'm drawing a blank. You have the Panthers job open, you have the Falcons job open, you have the Titans job open. Mark Davis, yeah. Stephen Davis was a running back.
if Al Davis is saying it, you know it's bad.
that's a problem. So, of those jobs, I feel like trying to look at the roster, like I feel like if Dallas isn't available, I feel like the best option for someone like Harbaugh and Belichick is probably the Chargers because of Herbert.
I say you've got Herbert, and I know this is crazy, but like, man, to Southern California is pretty awesome if you're making that kind of money,
Right.
like,
Yeah.
like in terms of like, oh, it's just going to be nice weather all the time.
I guess
That's pretty
the
awesome.
biggest drawback of the Chargers job is you're in the division with Mahomes and Reed.
Agree.
But if you're the guy, that shouldn't stop you. So I
Right.
could see Harbaugh or Belichick going to the Chargers.
Right.
If Dallas and or Philadelphia opens, that's a different story because you have established veteran quarterbacks at both of those stops with a lot of core talent there.
Right.
Now, there's some aging issues, I think, honestly, more in Philadelphia than there are in
Yeah.
Dallas. I think there's more talent in Philly, but I think there's more veteran guys there that could move on or retire.
Yeah.
That could throw a wrench into things. But you still have Hurts, Brown, and Smith and Goddard. That's a great foursome right there on offense.
Right.
You have to come in and probably make over the defense a little bit because they've had their issues this year. Same thing in Dallas. I feel like there's a couple pieces. Obviously, you have Michael Parsons, who's one of the best defensive guys out there, if you use him right.
Yeah, have him
And
drop
on
a cover
offense,
every play.
like I know people like the love hate for Dak is ever present. It's up and down. he is.
I don't look at that game today though and be like, oh, they lost that game because of Dak. I know.
I think the pick 6 and then the other interception in the red zone,
No, you're right.
your own
You're
red
right.
zone.
You're right. Maybe today's not a great example for that.
But that stuff happens. It's just happening at home as the 2 seed. Like it's
Right.
just bad luck. But
Right.
yeah. So we'll see. I mean, by next week at this time, a lot of these jobs may have been.
Well, I don't know if it was Schefter. I thought somebody said that like the Chargers are going to interview Harbaugh, like that he is going to interview with them.
So
when he hired an NFL agent,
right, some of these jobs could be closed when we're back on the air next week, unless these teams really want to do their due diligence with the assistants on these playoff teams.
They don't actually want to do their due diligence. Every one of these owners knows who they want already. Somebody will get those guys, and they'll have to go to other guys down their list. But every one of them knows who they want to hire.
Well, so last thing, so the Patriots hired Gerard Mayo is in his contract that when Belichick. So there wasn't even like, because we talked about, could it be Vrabel? Will it be Mayo?
Right.
It was basically in his contract from last year.
And then
the succession plan. And
all that stuff started coming out about how like he withdrew his name from a job last year after meeting with Kraft. And then it also, that interview, and I don't know when the interview was from, but it was like Brady, a bunch of former like Patriot guys, and they were talking. And they like jokingly referred to like who has the question was who has the most pool like in, and they all said Gerard Belichick, like, and they all referred to him as like him, like he's the guy who has more pool with Bill than anyone. Like,
so I think the biggest thing he needs to do is fill out his staff and figure out what he's going to do at quarterback.
Yeah,
could this
now,
could go
again,
one of two ways.
If they had that conversation last year though, he knows. Like, he knows who he wants. You don't always get him, but he knows who he wants.
Does he bring McDaniels home for a 4th time to be his OC? Because he's a defensive guy.
Would McDaniels do it?
Or does McDaniels go with Bill wherever Bill goes?
Both places could have new quarterbacks next year.
Well, could you see Bill going to the Chargers with Herbert and McDaniels going there?
That would be interesting.
Because McDaniels, I think, has proven that he can't be a head coach, but he's still a heck of an offensive coordinator.
Yeah.
The other thing is, and I wasn't thinking about this because I really thought Vrabel would be
McDaniels as the offensive coordinator after being embarrassed as the head coach is the best McDaniels.
Right.
Like that's peak McDaniels.
The option of having Mike Vrabel as your coach now for Dallas or Philly, if either of those teams fire their coach because of failures in the playoffs.
This sounds silly. I'm not a big Vrabel guy.
You don't like Vrabel?
I don't.
See, I feel like Vrabel is kind of like Dan Campbell.
I feel like Vrabel is a guy, and I feel like this is my dislike of those Patriot teams bleeding through into skewing my perspective of Vrabel the coach.
Well, I'm just thinking.
I also feel like Vrabel the coach underperformed at the biggest times. Now, maybe he has done more with less than any of those coaches that are on the market right now, like at least the big name guys. Who's the best quarterback that Mike Vrabel had?
Will Levis, right? I mean, Tannehill had his moments, but I wouldn't say I wouldn't say he's had a great, a top 10 guy. So it'll be interesting. But could you imagine Derrick Henry following Vrabel wherever he goes, though? I know Derrick Henry's not what he was 3 years ago, but still.
Imagine
the Eagles
reuniting AJ Brown with Vrabel, because it's pretty clear that Vrabel was not on board and did not want to move on from AJ Brown.
No, why would you? I one of the dumbest trades I've seen.
I disagree.
But I mean, if the Eagles fail tomorrow and they fire him, I feel like Vrabel's got to be one of the top options.
And that could be. Hey, and win me over.
I know Jeffrey
Prove me
Lurie's done a
wrong.
good job of finding unknowns and having success with them as coach. He made a misstep with Chip Kelly. But all the other guys that he's brought in have been basically like no one wanted Andy Reid when he was hired.
No
one wanted Nick Sirianni when he was hired.
Doug Peterson
no
when
one
he was
wanted
hired.
Doug Peterson, exactly. And they all had success.
Right.
One won a Super Bowl. Two others got them to the Super Bowl. Vrabel, Belichick, Harbaugh would be the biggest name hire they've ever made.
I feel like Belichick would be such a weird dynamic because in Eagles management, Howie Roseman has his ups and downs, but is such a big name, right? Like, that would be a bigger name GM than Belichick has ever worked with, right? Like, I don't know that he'd want that. I honestly don't know how I would feel about that.
Well, I honestly, with the way Jeffrey Lurie and Howie Roseman operate, I don't see Belichick or Harbaugh being a legitimate option.
No, I think those guys want and are
Crave
in positions to
control.
command more control than the Eagles would be willing to give.
But I feel like Vrabel would be a great fit there.
Right.
I do. You said working with A.J. Brown, the best quarterback Vrabel's ever had. Good chance you could bring in someone like Derrick Henry. Like I know they have DeAndre Swift, but Swift and Henry would be a pretty good 1-2 punch.
And it not working. Well, and like I saw the thing that said, I guess Vrabel overplayed his hand in a power struggle. I don't know if it was this past season or if it was
with
something.
Carthon? Or with ownership?
I think with both, possibly. I think with ownership. And they didn't like that. And then it just kind of compounded. And we saw that thing where like they didn't like that he referred to we with the Patriots. And
right, they didn't like that.
I don't think that was the nail in, maybe it was the nail in the coffin. I don't think that's the main reason, but I think it's like maybe death by 1,000 cuts kind of thing.
And I honestly, I feel like
maybe the Eagles will win tomorrow, and this will be a moot
right.
point.
It won't matter. But
I would love nothing less.
But also, if you're Vrabel, wouldn't you want to go somewhere that's going to have a good quarterback?
Yeah,
because
who's locked up contractually? Like you don't have to worry about that.
So that would only be if it comes available, Philly or Dallas or the Chargers. Yeah. Now the Commanders and the Falcons, Commanders more so than the Falcons, have a chance to get one in the draft. The Commanders pick second, right?
Yeah.
So they can get either Caleb Williams or May from North Carolina. They're guaranteed to get one of those two. Whoever isn't taking it one, they can take it two. The Falcons, however, would need to move up because they're picking at like 8 or 9, I think.
Yeah.
6, 7, 8, or 9. They're nowhere. They're not close enough to get the 1 or 2 spot. They would have to trade up. So, you talk to front office management about what their expectations are for the quarterback because obviously Desmond Ridder and Taylor Heineke are not in Atlanta, and it doesn't look like Sam Howell is the way to go in Washington. But if you're Vrabel and you've had as much success as you can have with someone like Tannehill, you'd want to go somewhere with a better option to show that you can get things done when you have the people around you. So it'll be interesting to see what happens. There's a lot of moving pieces, but I wouldn't be surprised if some of those jobs are finalized this week, especially with some of these teams losing. Especially if Detroit would end up losing because their coordinators are being sought after. Johnson and Glenn are being interviewed a bunch of places. Dallas is now out. Dan Quinn's available to interview. I don't know. Well, some people were talking. I think Frank Smith, the Dolphins OC, I think it's Frank Smith, was supposed to be being interviewed by a few people as well. I don't know. We'll see.
It's going to be wild.
It's going to be wild. With who knows what's going on with Carroll, but Belichick is out there. Vrabel is out there. And could be some marquee teams with openings depending on how things go over the next 36 hours. So, But Justin and I will be back for episode 392 next Sunday, January 21st, to talk about the divisional round action and then recap anything that happens in the world of coaching. Yeah. Probably mostly NFL. I don't know if we're going to get any college bombs dropped on us, except Harbaugh possibly leaving, but we've already kind of established that that's happening. So, any shout-outs from you?
Happy belated birthday to my dad. I know we did it on the show last week. Birthday yesterday.
Happy birthday to Jeff.
I think that's it.
Yeah, and I don't think I can cover an important one next week. Trying to think if there was anyone else coming up or that I would have missed. I said a bunch of them last week that were in early January. So I think I'm okay, but I apologize if I missed anything. But, that's it for us this week. episode 391, covering Super Wildcard Weekend 2024. Justin and I will be back in 1 week's time. Until next time, thanks for listening to the Joe Mays and J-Raff Show.
That's a wrap on this episode of the Joe Mays and J-Raff Show, brought to you by Mays Sandwich Shop. Woo-hoo! You can watch each weekly episode live on Facebook, Periscope, or YouTube. Be sure to like, follow, or subscribe to the show on Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, SoundCloud, Apple Podcasts, and Google Play. You can also rate and review us on many of these platforms as well. We'd love to hear from you. Send your emails to the Mays Sandwich Shop inbox at joemaysandjraff@gmail.com. The Joe Mays and J-Raff Show is a part of the JMNJR Radio Network, home to other productions such as The Bulldog Hour, Tangents with Friends, and Nat Chats with Dad. Until next time.